To start, I wanted to share a bit of background information on myself. I grew up figure skating competitively and began teaching ice skaters when I was 15 years old. I continued doing so throughout college and then entered into corporate America for 4 years following graduation. I missed what I had always known and loved, which was teaching others and being physically active at the same time. My husband and I were transferred to Florida from Chicago in 2009 for his career, and I knew I wanted a job and life change. I became a NASM certified personal trainer and fitness nutrition specialist with my own business. I as well began teaching a handful of figure skating classes in addition to off-ice conditioning classes, which I fell in love with. A handful of my personal training clients were everyday people wishing to get in better shape and lose weight, while the others consisted of athletes. The questions I received with regard to nutrition from my non-athlete clients were basics such as, should I limit my carb intake? How many calories per day should I be consuming to lose weight? Do I need to eliminate sugar, flour, wine, soda, and so forth? And how many glasses of water should I drink per day? While these questions and the like are extremely important, I wanted to go off of the more challenging questions I have received over time from the competitive figure skaters I have coached both on and off the ice. The discussion boards for this class have piqued a lot of my interest, and specifically the question posed in week 9 asking, what is the most important dietary aspect for optimal recovery from training or performance, and how important is meal timing for recovery? While many educated personal trainers are well versed on various nutrition topics, our scope of practice is limited due to required licensure for nutritionists and dietetics professionals. According to the USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans, we as trainers are able to educate our clients about subjects such as nutrition, supplementation, healthy eating, making healthy choices, hydration, techniques for carbohydrate loading, appropriate protein consumption, nutritious snacks during exercise, and timing of post-workout meals for enhanced recovery. Each of these topics are drawn from the USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans and from research published in reputable scientific journals. For food tracking to figure out weight loss, nutrition breakdowns, and the like, clients can utilize sites such as MyPlate and MyFitnessPal. A client who needs additional help with his or her diet or who wants you to design a diet or meal plan should be referred to a nutritionist. I found what I believe to be two incredible pieces examining the role carbs play in training and recovery conducted by Burke and his colleagues in 2004 and 2011. I personally believe that carbs play a major role in optimal recovery from training, and I loved all of the well-described information that I learned from the authors. While the majority of my personal training clients have asked very common, run-of-the-mill questions with regard to nutrition, I wanted to explore a more in-depth answer I have heard from multiple parents of competitive skaters who are interested in how nutrition affects their bodies and performance abilities. It is no secret that post-performance nutrition is extremely important for a myriad of reasons. Choosing the most important dietary factor to promote optimal and timely recovery from activity is difficult since more than one are important. From my own experience, I have found healthy carbohydrates to be extremely imperative. According to Burke and his colleagues in 2011, the restoration of muscle and liver glycogen is a fundamental goal of recovery between training sessions or competitive events, particularly when the athlete undertakes multiple workouts within a condensed time period. A piece from Burke 2004 looked at the importance of carbs and recovery times in carbohydrates for training and recovery. Here are the key takeaway points with regard to the importance of carbs for optimal recovery. Athletes should aim to achieve carbohydrate intakes to meet the fuel requirements of their training program and to optimize restoration of muscle glycogen stores between their workouts. General recommendations can be provided, preferably in terms of grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of the person's body mass by way of a nutrition professional, but should be fine-tuned with individual consideration of total energy needs, specific training needs, and feedback from training performance. Very specific recommended carbohydrate grams are provided in Burke 2004. However, due to my scope of practice, I'm not able to prescribe these suggestions. It is valuable to choose nutrient-rich carbohydrate foods and to add other foods to recovery meals and snacks to provide a good source of protein and other nutrients as well. These nutrients may assist in other recovery processes and, in the case of protein, may promote additional glycogen recovery when carbohydrate intake is suboptimal or when frequent snacking is not possible. The key takeaway points with regard to interval time between carb consumption and recovery are as follows. According to this piece, when the interval between exercise sessions is short, the person participating in physical activity should maximize the effective recovery time by beginning carbohydrate intake as soon as possible. When longer recovery periods are available, people can choose their preferred meal schedule as long as total carbohydrate intake goals are achieved. It is not always practical to consume substantial meals or snacks immediately after the finish of a strenuous workout. The major source of carbohydrate during exercise is the muscle glycogen. The glucose from glycogen is readily mobilized and is therefore a good source of energy for sudden strenuous activity. Unlike fatty acids, the released glucose can provide energy in the absence of oxygen and then supply energy for anaerobic activity. For optimal training performance, muscle glycogen stores must be replenished on a daily basis. Studies examining 24-hour recovery have found that restoration of muscle glycogen is the same whether a given amount of carbohydrate is fed at 2 or 7 meals, or as 4 large meals or 16 one-hourly snacks. Similar muscle glycogen storage was achieved despite marked differences in blood glucose and insulin profiles over 24 hours. Very high rates of glycogen synthesis during the first 4 to 6 hours of recovery had been reported when large amounts of carbohydrate were fed at 15 to 30-minute intervals and attributed to the higher sustained insulin and glucose profiles achieved by such a feeding protocol. With this said, meeting total carbohydrate requirements is more important than the pattern of intake, at least for long-term recovery, and the athlete or exercise participant is advised to choose a food schedule that is practical and comfortable. When the period between exercise sessions is less than 8 hours, the athlete should begin carbohydrate intake as soon as practical after the first workout to maximize the effective recovery time between sessions. There may be some advantages in meeting carbohydrate intake targets as a series of snacks during the early recovery phase, but during longer recovery periods, such as 24 hours, the athlete should organize the pattern and timing of carbohydrate-rich meals and snacks according to what is practical and comfortable for their ideal situation. Carbohydrate-rich foods with a moderate to high glycemic index provide a readily available source of carbohydrate for muscle glycogen synthesis and should be the major carbohydrate choice in recovery meals. The authors do not take away from other important nutrients in addition to carbs, but show how paramount healthy carbs are in optimally aiding those after physical activity. While important research has been done on this topic, more is needed. Burke 2011 recommends the following areas to be looked at in depth due to current limitations in his study and for better future research. 1. Can manipulation of nutrition characteristics promote better glycogen storage from a given carbohydrate intake, particularly in cases where energy restrictions or practical challenges cause suboptimal carbohydrate intake? 2. Can strategies to train low with low availability of endogenous and exogenous carbohydrate availability be further incorporated into the periodized training program to enhance competition performance? In particular, researchers need to employ practical and sensitive measures of performance to determine whether metabolic differences in muscle translate into functional changes that are worthwhile in determining the outcomes of sport. 3. Can a better understanding of the effects of carbohydrate on the central nervous system help us to exploit an erogenous effect? 4. To advise athletes to consume adequate carbohydrate to meet the daily fuel needs of their training programs, or at least to optimize their intake of carbohydrate within eating patterns that meet their energy needs and other aspects of healthy nutrition. The two included studies by Burke and his colleagues did a wonderful job thoroughly examining the information and leaving out flaws. I hope I did a sound job at answering the question, and thank you for listening.